Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. This is a playoff edition of Eagles Game Plan, finally. That's Ike Reese, that's Mike Quick, I'm John Clark. By the way, the Eagles having the top seed, this is their 5th time over the last 2 decades. Only the Patriots have had more number 1 seeds over that time, and the last number 1 seed in the NFL to win the Super Bowl, the Eagles in 2017. Maybe some good karma. Now, of course, the Eagles don't have a game this week. They're waiting for the divisional round. They have a bye week. What are the advantages of having that week off with the playoffs at home?
Well, we know that this is a 17-game schedule. And through 17 games, you wear your body down. It's really demanding on all of these players. And now, to have that week where they get an opportunity to recharge their battery and to sit back and look at the things that they do really well and look at the things that they're not doing so well. And you have to take the good and make sure that you enhance the good, but work on the things that you don't do so well and bring them up a little bit. That's what they have to do this week.
Yeah, and while everybody certainly strives to get the bye week, have that number 1 seed, there's only one of them. And also, it can sometimes work against you. But I think where the Eagles are at this point in the season, the bye week comes at a perfect time. They're just starting to get players back. C.J. Gardner-Johnson played in his first game last week. Jalen Hurts played in his first game last week. They were able to knock some rust off, but as far as being physically ready to go, the extra week is going to help this football team. And it gives them a chance, as Q just mentioned, to take a little bit of a mental break. You know, every once in a while, you need that mental break, a chance to step away from the game, look at it from afar, and you kind of get a different view of what's happening as opposed to being in the mix. The bye week, in my opinion, comes at the perfect time for this Eagles team because they need to continue to get healthy, but also carrying the burden of the team with the best record all season long. You know, I don't know how much that didn't weigh on them towards the end. So now you get a chance to step back, recharge, and when they step on the field next week, it's a new season for them.
Yeah, and you talked about injured players. Josh Sweat, Nick Sirianni says he will hopefully play. Lane Johnson will hopefully be back. We don't know about Avonte Maddox yet, but they are getting healthier. And when you go into the playoffs with one of the best defenses in the NFL, that helps a lot. Eagles gave up the fewest passing yards per game in the NFL. They had the most sacks, one of the top defenses. So what makes them so good? Here's a little self-scouting. Everybody's doing self-scouting. Greg Cosell's doing some of that. Here it is, presented by Golden Nugget Jewelers.
Now, I've watched the Eagles all season on tape, and I have to tell you, while I thought they'd have a really good D-line, which they ended up having, and I'm sure not a lot of people expected that they would end up with the 3rd most quarterback sacks in the history of the game since they started recording sacks, and the most since the 1989 Minnesota Vikings. Now, I turn on the tape every single week and watch the Eagles defense. And what immediately stands out is the domination of this defensive line as pass rushers. A number of guys, most teams are happy to have 1 really good pass rusher, maybe 2. And by really good pass rushers, I mean guys that can win one-on-one. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to do that to create a really strong pass rush on a week-to-week basis. Now, the Eagles don't play a lot of games up front. They don't stunt an awful lot. In fact, they're at the bottom of the league in terms of stunt percentage. But what stands out when you watch tape is when they do stunt, they are really, really good at it. And one stunt we've seen a number of times this year is Haason Reddick with a long stunt, working behind 2 other defensive linemen. He lines up really as a defensive tackle in this scheme in this game. And he's had a couple of sacks doing that. So the Eagles, that defensive line and the ability to sack the quarterback, hey, I remember Bill Walsh saying many, many years ago that one of the keys to winning in the NFL, and it hasn't changed, is the ability to rush the quarterback as the game gets later in the 4th quarter. The Eagles have shown the ability to do that. They are the best sacking team in the National Football League, and that really has stood out watching their tape this year.
Yeah, the Eagles led the NFL with 70 sacks. They led the NFL with pressure percentage. By the way, Haason Reddick, only Micah Parsons had a better pass rush win rate for edge rushers. So shout out to Haason Reddick, a great year and a great signing. So the Eagles, of course, leading the NFL in sacks, but they're kind of average, middle of the pack in time to sack, average time to sack. What does that mean, and what does that say about the defense?
Well, before everybody goes into outrage here, that's not anything to feel negative about. I actually think it's a positive thing, because what it says to me is that the coverage on the back end is allowing the Eagles' front rush to get to the quarterback. Let's take a look here at the play here. One of my favorite coverages, coverage 4. We broke this down a couple weeks ago against New Orleans Saints. You're going to get this 3-by-1 formation here, right? So at the snap of the ball, Andy Dalton wants to get this ball out of his hand, but a great job is being done by TJ Edwards, who in this cover 4 has to play through the number 3 receiver in this route, pass him off. Look at Reed Blankenship on the back end. Because you get the flood routes to the front side, Reed knows there's nothing on the back end that needs to hold him. He's able to push to the front side. TJ knows this. He's able to pass number 3 there. And this whole time, Andy Dalton's not able to go to not only his first receiver, but his second receiver, forces him to hold the ball. And guess what? We talk about these sacks. This allows Haason Reddick to get to Andy Dalton. The pass protection was there. It was available for the Saints offense, but because of the coverage was so good on the back end, it allowed for the pass rush to get there. And this is how your pass rush and your coverage is sort of married together, and they help each other out.
There should be a way that you can credit the back end when they do that.
Assist?
Yeah,
Assist
they should,
on a sack?
because, you look at the sacks, it's an individual stat. As you just showed, there's so many things that goes into sacking the quarterback. And I do believe that guys on the back end should get an assist on that, because you don't get sacks unless they're doing their job, unless they're forcing the quarterback to hold it for a tick. Many times you're not going to get those sacks. I love the fact that you're showing how important that back end is to the front end, where these guys are getting these individual big numbers, but they come at the expense of these guys on the back end doing their job.
And we've highlighted this a number of times this year. I think the Eagles do this better than anyone, where you look at, it's again, not a knock against the guys up front necessarily beating the offensive linemen quickly, because sometimes that's not going to happen. But the fact that we have good coverage on the back end, it allows for our pass rush to be able to work these one-on-ones and get to the quarterback.
You've got 4 guys with double-digit sacks on this team this year. Well, they played really well. Take nothing away from them, but it happens because the guys on the back end are doing their job as well. Do your job.
By the way, I do agree with you about assists. Like Super Bowl where Brandon Graham sacked Tom Brady. Well, Fletcher Cox should get an assist for having the double team, taking the double team, and Brandon gets that sack. So let's put that in
Everybody
there as well.
gets an assist.
Everybody, like hockey.
You get
Everybody
an
gets
assist.
an assist.
You get an assist.
Give them 2 assists on every sack. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, Eagles watching, better with Pepsi. PA Lottery, there's a lot of love for the PA Lottery, and when you see how fun it is, you'll understand why.
Intentional grounding is a spot foul. Yeah, I figured that out in Madden. I lost like 35 yards. That'd be like a 5-yard penalty or something. Hey, let's go, baby! Woo! Nice tackle. We got the ball at the 50-yard line twice. Didn't do anything. So we might as well go the whole way.
All right, Dallas Goedert mic'd up against the Giants in the last regular season game. Good to have Dallas Goedert back out there for the last couple of games going into the playoffs. How big is this offense when you have the guys on the outside and then you have Dallas in the middle?
I just think there's so much variety in this offense that they can do so many things and do them really well. They're a top 10 team in the screen game. They're top 10 team in play action passing. They've shown this year that they're really a vertical threat. They really get the ball down the field. So on the defensive side, you have to be concerned about all of these things. And if you watch this play, it's going to be a play action that's going to the right side. You're going to see Jordan Mailata pull. So defensively, you're thinking run. But no, it's not a run. It's a fake on the play action. then you see the vertical stem down the right side. So, okay, defensively, it could be a vertical. But no, it's Dallas Goedert who's going to block on the edge and then slip to the screen position, and they screen the football to Dallas Goedert, and off he goes. It's not just all of the plays, it's the variety in any single play that this team can hit you with that really has a defense scratching their head, trying to figure out what this team is doing.
Yeah, and you said it. The Eagles are the only team in the NFL this year, 3 different players with more than 1,100 yards from scrimmage. Miles Sanders,
Wow.
A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith. That's explosive. And you know they like to throw the ball down the field? Well, that's what Greg Cosell is covering in this self-scouting presented by Golden Nugget Jewelers.
Watching tape of the Eagles offense this year, I have to tell you, I've been surprised and incredibly impressed with this team's ability to push the ball down the field in the vertical passing game. You know, we live in an era now where there's so many short passes, where yards per attempt has really dropped significantly. And you know what team leads the NFL in yards per attempt? The Philadelphia Eagles, with more than 8 yards per attempt. That is a staggering number in today's world of the NFL. Now, there's a number of reasons for this. One, of course, is A.J. Brown. He lines up in multiple locations within the offense. But I want to show you this play where he's number 1 to the field on the outside with a plus split. You can see it's single high safety. Jalen Hurts sees that. He knows he has the vertical route to Brown. Brown gets over the top of the corner, and this is a beautifully thrown ball by Jalen Hurts. We've seen so much of that this season. Hurts to Brown on vertical throws. But not only is A.J. Brown really important here, so is Jalen Hurts in his development. This play against the Giants in the first matchup really stood out to me. You're going to see DeVonta Smith in the slot. Now, this is an empty set, so Smith is in the slot to the twin side of the formation. Now, what does Hurts do here? He changes the play at the line of scrimmage. He has what he wants. He has man coverage to that side. Press coverage. So he calls for a slot fade to Smith. This is beautiful. It's great awareness, great recognition of the defense, and an absolutely beautiful throw to Smith that ends up in a touchdown. Really, really good by Jalen Hurts. And that's another factor in the ability to attack vertically. And then there's always concepts. The pass game is built on concepts. It's understanding the defense you're playing, anticipating coverages based on situation. And you can go all the way back to early in the season against the Minnesota Vikings on a Monday night when we saw that with a Quez Watkins touchdown. They knew, the Eagles did, that they'd get a high tendency cover 4 quarters look against the Vikings. That's what they play. They ran a quarters beater concept. You have Dallas Goedert running from the inside an outbreaking route, and you have Watkins running the vertical route from the outside. And there's always gray areas in zone coverage because it's about sharing routes. And here, the Vikings don't do that very well. Hurts sees that, goes over the top to Watkins, and you get a long, explosive play touchdown. The Eagles have been as good as any team in the league in creating explosive play touchdowns. You turn on the tape, you see that every single week. They are really, really good.
Don't ever take it for granted. Number 1 seed, home field advantage.
Oh yeah.
And we can be so much better. It's unbelievable. We had a meeting maybe 5-6 days before the first game. Nick Sirianni, his coaches, and we said, you know what? We only have one goal for the regular season. One goal. The only goal was to be the number 1 seed, game by game, practice by practice. You establish the standard. This game ball, without question, goes to Coach Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, Jeffrey Lurie giving a well-deserved game ball to Nick Sirianni. And all year, both sides of the Eagles coaching staff, defense, offense, they've done a great job of scheming up this team. And now they're working on some fundamentals this week on the bye week in the playoffs. Let's take a look at the coaching here. Here's Fran Duffy with Tape Study presented by Chickies and Pete's.
So for this week here on Tape Study, presented by Chickies and Pete's, I wanted to do a fine focus on one of the tools that the Eagles coaching staff has used to put the players in position to succeed on offense. If you look at empty sets where basically the quarterback, Jalen Hurts, is by himself all alone in the backfield. No running back, no tight end, no wide receiver back there with him. He is all alone. And the Eagles, out of these looks, average over 9 yards a play when Jalen Hurts is on the field. That is well ahead of everybody else in the NFL. And the Eagles do a great job of getting Jalen Hurts information before the snap, and that allows Jalen to be able to create some big plays both as a passer and as a runner. Here's a great example against Pittsburgh where, again, you've got that empty set and the defense responds with a zone look pre-snap. Jalen Hurts has an idea of what he's going to get, and you've got a two-man route concept to attack a zone coverage defender here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Jalen Hurts takes the snap. He's going to work the zone-beating side of this route concept, and he finds A.J. Brown wide open over the middle of the field. The formation dictated the coverage, and then Jalen Hurts was able to attack that coverage. Go back a few weeks earlier against the Washington Commanders. You're going to see, again, the Eagles in an empty set. Jalen Hurts all by himself. Here, you have much more of a man look from the Washington Commanders. You've got guys up on the line of scrimmage. You've got a linebacker out wide on a running back. That is a clear signal. It is man-to-man coverage. So here the Eagles are running a man-beating concept in the middle. So Jalen Hurts, he's going to react in kind. He's going to get the ball to DeVonta Smith on this man-beating route, and you've got a big play, an explosive pass play out of an empty set for another big play and a first down. Now, go back a couple weeks ago, and you're going to see, again, it's not just about the pass game from these empty sets. You would think, well, if there's no running back there, this is going to be a pass all day, and that's how the defense responds. Everybody is outside the numbers here. There's not a soul in the middle of this Chicago Bears defense. So Jalen Hurts is going to check into a running play here. This is going to be a quarterback draw. You see him at the line of scrimmage doing his work. He's going to keep this football on the ground, and on third down, he runs 22 yards. This is a huge play for the Eagles in this offense. We've seen him time and time again score touchdowns in the red zone off these QB draws from these empty sets. So what is he going to do? You got to throw change-ups off of that. A play-action pass with no running backs in the backfield. This looks like QB draw all the way against Washington, but instead of Dallas Goedert blocking the safety, he's going to release on a little pop pass here, and Jalen Hurts is going to jump up in the air and hit Dallas for a touchdown off a play-action pass from an empty set. Whether it's pass game or run game, this coaching staff has done a great job of putting Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, everybody in advantageous situations to create explosive plays in this offense. I would expect that to continue through the postseason.
Hey, welcome back to a playoff edition of Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. And obviously the Eagles self-scouting, they're looking at things they do well. Let's accentuate that, but they're working on some things they don't do well. What can they improve on going into their first playoff game?
Well, I'll start on the defensive side of the ball, man. Turnovers. We got to get back to taking the football away from our opponents. I thought through the first, 14 games of the season, we were the number one opportunistic defense in the league. Right. And over the last couple of weeks, we've gotten one against Dallas. We got the one against New Orleans. But man, we were living off of these turnovers early in the season, giving our offense the short field, taking the ball away from the other team. You do that in the playoffs, that increases your chances of winning exponentially. We got to get back to taking the football away from our opponents.
Well, and they have to be much better at protecting the quarterback from all of these pressures and blitzes that they're going to see. The Eagles are blitzed the third most in the National Football League. Teams think that they can get after them with the blitz. And you saw the Giants last week, and the Giants were effective in getting free runners to the quarterback. They have to get ready for the playoffs because the playoffs will expose every weakness that you have. Teams are going to come after them in the blitz. They have to be ready for it, and everybody have to be on point.
All right, and you know the NFC playoffs come through the Link.
Yep.
Enjoy the games this weekend, and then the Eagles are back next weekend at the Link with a home playoff game. I'm John Clark. Thanks for watching Eagles Game Plan, presented by Toyota. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. Pepsi, Eagles watching, better with Pepsi. PA Lottery. There's a lot of love for the PA Lottery, and when you see how fun it is, you'll understand why.